Hello, horror fans. It's me, Cassandra, with the Horrorcraft podcast. And today I'm flying solo, but I'm super excited because it's like a big family reunion. I got Angie over here. How are you, Angie?
I'm great. I'm great. Thanks for having me.
And then we have Gavin. Gavin, how
I
are
have
you?
my cranberry flavored La Croix. So it's just it's like I've come straight from a film set and raided the craft service table. Yeah.
I mean, it works. So today we have the extreme pleasure of doing a deep dive, but doing a deep dive on the Scarehouse. Now, if you have not heard Gavin's episode before, hit the pause button and go listen to it because it's full of great awesomeness. But you would know that the Scarehouse is an absolutely wonderful movie and a gut punch, to be completely honest. If you do not have it as part of your Halloween must watch, please put it on right now. It features Gavin's lovely wife, Sarah Booth, who Angie and I are proud members of Sarah Booth Fan Club. We got to rep Sarah. But it is a revenge story. It is also a revenge story that takes place in a scare house. And it's pretty brutal. Yeah.
I was looking at it because I made a post recently. We shot the movie. So we wrapped the movie a week ago today. We wrapped the movie 10 years ago. I was looking at
Wow.
I had to dig through email. I've been working on a documentary about the haunted house that the movie was shot in, and I was looking for something related to the Scarehouse movie, and I was digging through email, and I was like, oh, so like the day that we started filming, I posted a clip on Instagram. I found an old clip from like day one of production, put a little behind the scenes thing. I was like, there's so much behind the scenes footage that just has never seen the light of day. I'm like, I want to do something with it. So like next October will be like the 10th year anniversary of like its actual release to the public. So I'm like, maybe I'll put some retrospective together, figure something out.
Oh, how
Yeah,
cool.
you definitely should. I am always shocked the amount of people who don't know about the Scare House, especially
That's the
for
joy of independent film, making things for nobody to ever hear about them.
Well, I will say it's my joy to introduce it to people. Like, Kylie wasn't able to be here, but Kylie, we've
I
been in a
just
couple.
sorry, I lost audio. 1 second. I don't know what my computer did to me. 1 second.
No, you're fine.
Oh, there we go. Now I can hear you. Yeah.
It's it's okay. It's the Phantom effect. It's Danny Phantom. Uh, but no, Kylie, she wasn't able to be here today, but after being in a couple of clubhouse rooms with both you and I, Kylie watched The Scare House, and that is her new favorite film. Like, I don't know
Oh,
how many
wow.
times we have been on video chat and she has it in the background. But like, she literally, after she watched it, she video chatted me and she was like, what the hell did I just watch? I was like,
What we want.
yeah, she loves it. So I have friends who cannot believe that they never even knew that that movie existed. That now it's just one of their favorites. But I think that's because of the storytelling. So um why don't you tell us a little bit about how the Scare House came to be?
It came to be because I am friends with a gentleman named Sean Lippert, and friends is an understatement because he's basically my best friend, and he owns the Scarehouse Windsor, which has grown over the last 15 years into like a premier haunt in Canada for the Michigan, Ontario region. It's one of the biggest and best. There's 4 different haunted mazes inside of there. There's 4 themed dinner rooms now, and they just put a mirror maze in, and they're doing all these crazy events because they built a massive bar. Actually, on October 1st, we're having a premiere. A TV series starts airing called The Boo Crew, which is all about how the whole history of the haunted house. So I've become the resident expert of everything Scarehouse Windsor. But knowing Sean since the beginning when they built it, I went through the haunt the first year because he opened and said, "Hey, we opened a haunted house. Come down." I'm like, "Yeah, I'll come down and support." And it was fun. And I tripped and I injured my shin. I like got a hairline fracture of my shin going through it the first
Mm.
time. So that's how much of a scaredy cat I am walking through a haunted house. And since then, I've never ever walked through the Scarehouse while it's live, like while there's actors in there, but would never do it. You'll never catch me in there. And I had this movie that's never going to get made now, but we got a big deal for it, $1 million budget together, but it was about a shooting in a high school. And it just, every time there was a real life shooting, it just kept falling apart. So in 2012, there was the Batman movie theater shooting in Aurora, and there was the Sandy Hook Elementary shooting at the end of the year. And after that, everybody was just like, yeah, we're not. It was a found footage movie about what it would be like to be trapped inside of a high school. And it was, so the controversy of trying to market the movie as something that really happened was what really everyone's like, I don't know, we're going to get eaten alive. So it fell apart. But the Canadian company we were working with said, it's not you. We love you. It's just this project we can't make. Pitch us something else. And the Canadian government telefilm had said, yeah, give us something else less controversial and let's go. So I said, well, I have this idea called the Scarehouse, because knowing Sean, I had walked through the haunted house all the time. I'm like, why would you, like, if you were of the twisted mindset of wanting to commit a mass shooting, like, why would you, there's two outcomes. You go to jail, or you get three outcomes. You go to jail, you take your own life, or you are gunned down by the police. That is, those are the outcomes of a mass shooting. And I said, why wouldn't you just build a haunted house, invite everybody you don't like through here? You have the high ground. Like, Sean has shown me how all the trap doors work, how few people you need in a haunted house sometimes to just kind of leapfrog and change costumes and everything they were doing in real life. And I was like, why wouldn't you just do that? You could literally just hang the bodies in here, and for the first 24 hours, nobody would even notice that they weren't props. They just think you had amazing prop builders. So when this other movie fell apart, I pitched the Scarehouse, and at the time it was based on two guys getting back at fraternity brothers, and I just had a very loose idea. At one point, I was like, we could do this found footage where they're filming it as like to have this memento, or they. It had to do with the cameras. It still had the idea of one of them framing the other, and the cameras were set up where they said they convinced the other person, no, we're going to document this and have this, but it was all to capture the other person on video, and the other person always stood in the shadows and never walked where the camera path was, so that only the other person would be seen dragging bodies, like to frame the person. Long story short, I had a meeting there, like, we love it, what's it called? I was just like, the Scarehouse, because that's the name of the haunt. We looked it up. They're like, nobody has a movie called the Scarehouse. Oh my God, like copyrighted immediately. And we were off to the races. They got Universal Studios involved right away. The government and the grant system in Canada said yes. So I was off to writing a script, but I had a follow-up meeting with them. They said, well, there's going to be sequels to this, right? We can do sequels. I'm like, yeah. What would the second one be about? I was like, gender swap it. It's a sorority this time, and they're like, amazing. And then they're like, wait, that should be the movie. So they sort of dictated that gender swap change, which made me want to involve my wife Sarah in developing the story. Having being of the female gender herself, and having grown up, with all of the catty bullying and infighting and mean texting and everything, could give massive insights and help my writing. So we wrote the swing of writing the story together, and that's the birth of how it all started. Yep.
Yeah, I don't know about you, Angie, but I feel like a real reason why it does work is because of the fact that it is about a sorority. Like, I feel like that extra level of cattiness that a lot of us women can relate to, where we have these friendships that aren't necessarily what we should call friendships, but we call them friendships anyways. And if we're really honest with ourselves, they're more like frenemies. And I think this takes that idea to like the umpteenth level, which I think a lot of people can relate to, because it's like you have those moments where you're like, why am I friends with this person? Like, why am I doing this? Like, I have people who don't like me who are nicer than this person who actually says they like me. Uh, but yeah, I mean, it just takes that idea to a whole other level. Plus, I think women still deal with the stigma too in horror movies, where it's like, oh yeah, a woman can't be a killer. Like, that's not feasible. And you come in like 10 minutes into the movie and just prove that that's definitely not the case.
Yeah.
So
I also got to do all of the Foley for the movie. Mike Carrier, the producer, and I we did. So like we're like, okay, well, there's the corset squeezing, right? We're like, what's gonna make the most great? I was trying to think of like all the pirate movies I've watched, or Master and Commander, where the closest I could think of is like when a like a pirate ship or an old timey wooden ship is swaying, and you can hear the tension of the ropes, like as the
Mm-hmm.
sails are kind of going like. And I was like, oh, what would cause that? So we ended up settling on, it's an old leather jacket that we're twisting a sleeve as tight as we can at either end in front of the microphone to get that sound of like the ropes tightening. It was that, and then some like plastic bubble wrap that we had popped in. We're just twisting the plastic as hard as we could to get that like tension sound. We gave all of that Foley to our sound mixer too. And even the, the little winch that's on the wall, you turn that on set and it goes it's the most like uninteresting sound. I left the sound mix to come back in the next day and starting. He goes, look at this. This is George Flores, our sound designer. And he says, because listen to this, and it kicks in. He's like, I'm like, what is that? He goes, well, it's a jet engine that I like sped up and quieted down and mixed with this. I'm like, that sounds very painful now. Like sound design.
Mm-hmm.
But when we're on set, like Danny Barker, the actress, just has her arms extended as far as she can, and like Sarah and someone else is like just holding the ropes on the other side. She's going, you're like, and half the time you're like, I don't know if this is gonna work in editing. Like it all, but sound designs everything in a horror movie.
Well, the
It,
sound was so interesting throughout the entire movie, and you have some behind the scenes items on YouTube, and one of them is about the
How about the
sound.
score? The
Yeah, do you
score,
want to
yeah.
talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, so Sean Lippert, who owns the haunt, him and I were in there for the full, because we're like, we didn't want to. I mean, we had a little bit of money to make the movie, but it's still low budget, so we couldn't like license sound effects. There's a lot of like sound effects, pre-made sound effects for haunts, but we custom made all the different rooms. So like, okay, there's this fun house mirror clown room. So like, when you hear like a woo ha, 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 or a it's like it's basically Sean and I like idiots just making all the different clown noises we could possibly think of. Like it's mine and Sean's voice is the voice of the Scarehouse and all the like. And then another friend of mine who's a talented voice actor in Canada, he did the sounds of the Scarehouse, like when you open the doors, it's like enter if you dare, and you'll never make it out alive, and all of that fun stuff is just like voice actor friends of ours like lending, because when you watch a rough cut of the Scarehouse, I remember showing it to Sarah and a couple friends for the first time, and they're like, cool. I'm like, but you can't, you're not hearing all of the sound design and all the surround and like the people screaming off in the distance that we had to do. But Adrian Ellis, my composer, he had this idea. He said, I want to make like an organic soundtrack. I want to come to this building where you're shooting the movie. It's a practical haunted house. I'm going to come down. I'm going to bring mallets and drumsticks and I'm just going to like bang on things. I'm just going to record a bunch of sounds inside. I'm going to shake the chain link fences that make up half the haunt. I'm going to, creak some old wooden boards. And he just did this entire sound library that he built for himself the way a Foley artist would, but he turned that into the score, which was super fascinating. Yeah, there is a video on YouTube and Vimeo that you can watch, like behind the scenes of the Scarehouse score, but he knocked it out of the park. And then at his studio, even Sarah and I got to get in on it, where he had taken sort of, I think it's called the action on a piano, like taking the action off of it or exposing the action. It's where you basically take off the casing and you can see all the
Yeah.
strings. So we would just use like guitar picks and things to like pick single string notes, or take a slide from a slide guitar and slide across the strings. And he would use horsehair to get that like very like just the most eerie. You hear it in so many horror movies. But yeah, it was just a very, all instruments were used in a very non-traditional way to make that movie.
Yeah, the sound plays such a huge part in it, because going back to that corset scene, like that is the one that profoundly sticks out to me, because I remember watching that and being like, I am never going to wear a corset ever again. I just automatically, when I see a corset now, I think, oh, that person's insides are going to get squeezed out. Okay, great. It just sticks out with you. But there's so many like I think another big part of that is the interesting way that they kill everyone, like from the corset to the pillow scene. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
don't think I could have, like, you are sick and twisted in the greatest way possible.
Um, it's interesting because memory gets faded. The removal of the breast implants was one of our film distributors' idea. He came up with that when we were just chatting, we were friendly, so we would have lunch like while I was in the writing process, and I was like, "It's pretty brutal. We can work that into the movie." Sarah came up. I know she came up with the corset death. I think she either came up with that and the pillow fight, or I had the pillow fight idea, but she had the powder. It all starts to blend together. But like, I'm trying to put off half of the disturbedness to my better half, because she did definitely, because I remember distinctly the corset one, grocery shopping. We were living in Toronto at the time, and we're like just, pulling things off the shelf and like, do you want this kind of do you want honey nut Cheerios or regular Cheerios? And like, how much tension do you think it would take? What gauge of rope do you need to break somebody's ribs but not like break the rope if it was tied to it? And there's like people looking at us, and we're like, we should stop talking because we're gonna get followed home by the police. Like, don't discuss your horror movie ideas. It's kind of like, the joke is always like, we must all be on the FBI most wanted list, like with all the stuff we've researched for true crime and how to, if you're an
Mm-hmm.
author or a screenwriter, but like, you don't do that in a coffee shop where everyone can see your screen, or you're instantly gonna set off some red flags. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that's just hilarious that you guys were at a grocery store talking about that, because I could see that. And I am that person. I'm like, what meat should we make for tacos? Oh, you know what I need to watch? I need to watch that movie where they saw the person in half, and it's okay. So
I do have somewhere, I have a list of all of the ideas we came up with for like different, the one thing we wanted to do was like try to find kills that felt original. Like, there's an electrocution in there, but we tried to like make it a little more organic to the
right.
plot and
Mm-hmm.
the exact way that it happens. Hadn't seen a corset squeeze before. Yeah, and I just also like we wanted something that made sense for, part of the plot is that for Elena and Corey, they've been sitting in jail. Like people go like, oh, it's so unrealistic and blah blah blah. I'm like, but if you're sitting in jail for 2 years and you got to talk to each other, and you're in a fantasy world of like, when we get out, we're gonna get revenge. For Elena, the minute that it became reality, and there's like ooze coming out, like pouring out of her former friend's like side from breaking a rib and God knows what else, it sets in of like, and you can see it in Corey of like, she's not into
Mm-hmm.
this, and I have to now cheerlead her to go through with this plan, because fantasy and reality are often very different. You can say a million times like, I want to smash that person's face in. It doesn't mean that you would ever actually do it if it came to it. So part of it, we wanted to dance with that because, spoiler alert, the movie's 9 years old now, but when it gets to the end and you realize that Corey's entire plan was to frame Elena and get away with it, pretending to be one of the potential victims, she needs Elena to be in the game. So anytime you like rewatch it, you realize all the times that Corey's just like, get it together, like, you need to do this, she even like holds her hand and forces Elena to stab and finish off the character's name, who I can't remember. I should know, that Danny plays.
Oh
Doesn't
yeah.
matter. Not like I wrote it or anything. Um, yeah, so I think it's just, for me, the storytelling is always just trying to keep an audience guessing. And I know the movie sometimes gets shit for that, because a lot of horror fans don't want like a thinking person's horror. They don't want to like have to listen to story and understand backstory and pay attention. Oh, God forbid you had to put your phone down and watch a movie and not catch all the little clues, because it's like, it's there at the beginning. Like they're tying their two nooses that look like it's just part of the final set design, and she's not tying hers. She's prepping it so that it will follow, making sure that Elena's not watching, so that when they go to hang themselves at the end, hers doesn't catch. Like, we tell you in the first minute exactly how the movie is going to end. You just don't know it, because you can't know it until you go back and go, fuck, it's right there. Yeah.
Which is just brilliant because, so many movies do that. They try to tell you how the ending's going to go at the beginning, but so many times you catch it. You figure it out, like, oh, they're really paying attention to that axe on the wall. I bet that's going to come in handy later at the very end, but you don't catch it with Scarehouse. You don't
I
see
tried
it.
hard. The idea I was talking about when it was like the frat house guys, the idea that there would be cameras and one of them always won't go down that hallway and avoids. We shot that for this version of the movie. There is a camera that's in we call it like the sorority house room or the ballroom, like where all the dead bodies are put on display one by one, like trying to complete the set almost. And there is a camera, and we shot close-ups of it, and we were going to allude to it. And in the movie, Corey never steps further into that room than like just past the doorway entrance, because she knows the parameters of where the camera, and she always makes Elena drag the dead bodies in there, so that the only thing that would show up on camera, and that was always going to be part of the end montage where as she's escaping out of the building, we were going to flash to those security cameras to show how it looks like only Elena was in there as the one like abducting them out of certain hallways, like when she grabs again, Danny Barker, that's the actress. What is her character name? The one who gets squeezed to death. I don't know. And but we wanted to set it up, and then ultimately just through the process of editing, you don't some things you just don't need or become overcomplicated because you're like, oh, it's not really set up clear enough to know what's happening. And then maybe people will be like, well, why did they set up cameras? That's dumb. She could have easily walked into it, because it's all internal for Corey, so you can't give it away. One of the things that we finished the movie, we edited it, we had a little test screening at a theater in Toronto with some of the executives for the movie, and it was good. Everybody had good feedback, and they came back to me the next day and said, we really feel like we missed the mark, that the opening of the movie should be the girls like 2 nights before the night of the incident, all dolled up, because we only see them getting shredded in this movie. We kind of and we allude to a lot of this story about what happened 2 years ago. It'd be nice to see them in like a pre-credit sequence or something just to open the movie. I was like, yeah, I'm not against that. We actually came in under budget on the movie, so we had just enough money to do like a day and a half of reshoots or additional shoots. And then I was going on vacation the next day, and Sarah and I were sitting on the beach, paradise vacation, and my brain started thinking about that scene, and I ended up going like, oh, what if they had a camcorder to film all of their exploits that night that they were just documenting for the sorority, and then we could actually do these like flashbacks and interstitials, because there were some things where I'm like, oh God, I wrote the movie, I made the movie, but there were some expedition dumps where you're like, Jesus, the scene just needs to end. But you needed the information. I was like, I can cut that out and we can show it by going back into that night and getting a sense of how they were friends, like how they all were kind of in this together. And that I could also backwards engineer that we would see the reasons why they chose the method to kill everybody. Danny's trying to get her corset tightened at the beginning, like when they're getting ready to go out for the night. You see the dresses that they have to wear. Elena pukes on hers because they're going to wear the same dresses, and they have to put her in a different dress. And you realize that's the dresses they dress up in the end to hang themselves in. So they're like, it's all part of what happened 2 years ago. And I got this rare opportunity to kind of like restructure the movie and go back and shoot this new footage. And all of the actors were so awesome. That was the only time they were all together, because the movie's so compartmentalized, where we mostly had maybe 4 of them at a time on set. And so everybody actually got to hang out and be friends. And it was just kind of a rare opportunity to change up what the movie was going to be entirely by having that day and a half, and thankfully having come in just under budget to have enough money to make that happen.
Danny played Emily Lewis.
I was going to say that. Yeah.
Emily. Yes.
Yeah. So talking about the cast, like how was the casting process with this?
I mean, I don't think we have a credited casting director in the movie, but it was Sarah. Sarah's like, we did the casting ourselves, but Sarah, we were living in Toronto at the time. Sarah was very heavily involved with sort of like the young, like talent scene through the acting union. And she had started, they had a program called, the Young Emerging Actor Assembly, and it was basically aimed at like educating actors to learn to make their own short films, like learn to produce, get involved in making their own contents. And she had opened the chapter in Montreal, her home region. And she's like, I feel like we just know everybody that we need to know to cast this movie. So we had some ideas in mind for people, and then we asked them to come in, but we did an open casting call. So we actually did a casting in Toronto and Montreal. So we had 2 full days of sitting with people watching auditions, and that's how we found everybody. And with Ivana, God, who plays Caitlin, and who dies in the pillow fight. Her and I actually, like, we just produced a movie together in February. She helped me produce a movie in Los Angeles, so we're still really good friends. And we found her, and she came in to read the role of Caitlin. It was a lot of like mean-spirited fat jokes and fat shaming, because we're trying, again, going to the root of like and we had always planned on casting somebody bigger for the role, but she came in and read for it, and she was so amazing. We're like, God, she's the one. She doesn't physically fit what we're looking for. And then we're just kind of like, it's extra mean if she's not even remotely overweight, and they're picking at her this much. And we're just kind of like, let's not even change a word of dialogue in the script. Let's just run with it and see what works. So casting's always interesting, because you think you know exactly what you want in your head, but then you see somebody give you something and you're like, oh my God, I would have never thought of like the way that you delivered that and the way that it happened. We had a casting for the Lisa role that we had somebody else cast, and they ended up booking a massive TV series, and they were like on set being like, they hadn't started filming yet, but we're going to start filming the next day. And we're like, can I go? It was like very painful to like give them that opportunity to go do the big show that, helped change their career, versus our little indie movie. But we had to get somebody like we just called somebody else, said, hey, you got to get on a train from Montreal. It's a 12-hour train ride. Like, you literally have to like just say yes now. I'll send you the script on the train, and then we'll and that Jennifer Miller, who is the role of Lisa, she came in and had to learn all the fight choreography, and something that the other actor had all this like training and time to do. Like, she got off the train, she got processed through costume and hair and makeup, and was on set like saying, and I remember talking to her later. She's like, yeah, I was reading the script on the train, and I got to this part where Corey pulls out this giant dildo and covers it in glue and glass, and that's for my character. And she's like, what have I signed up for? I don't want to be here. But she's like on the train coming to Windsor already, but it's a red herring. So she was like, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, you get a little concerned when you see that scene, because you're like, oh shit. But then
we had somebody we all wanted to be in the movie in some role. Michelle, I'll say the last name in a minute. And she came in, and she had been in another Canadian horror film that was really good. I loved her acting. And she came in, she was fantastic. We're like, yes. And then there was a miscommunication. She was still non-union at the time and wasn't able to do the movie. So we had to like pass on her. And that's Michelle Milet, who is now a giant ass star off of Letterkenny, who plays the sister. But yeah, it was just like, there's rules, there's union rules. We can't do it. So sometimes casting can be disappointing, where you think you found the person, their schedule doesn't work. Sarah was auditioning for the role of Lisa at one point. Like, she was like, okay, you've got your Universal movie. Like, yes, I'll audition for it, but I do not expect a part in this movie. This isn't like nepotism. But she auditioned. She's like dear friends, like best friends with Kimberly Sue Murray, who plays her co-star. And Kim was taping, and Sarah just taped with her, like in frame, versus like, normally it's just one actor in their self-tape. but they just did it together on camera, and our distributor saw that and came back and said, yeah, Sarah's probably not right for that role. We're like, yeah, that's fine. And we understand. I said, no. We think like she'd be perfect for like Corey to play the lead. And we're like, I'm like, I don't think she'll say no to that. So it's a lot of people just assume like, oh, Gavin wrote a movie, he's gonna put his wife in it. But I'm like, no, I got bosses. I can't just deem things possible. Plus, I would never cast her in a role that she wasn't suited for just because. But yeah, so she got to act alongside her like best friend and sort of former housemate in the movie.
Yeah, I feel like when people say that, like Sarah is an incredible actor. Like given the film, like all the different roles that she's been in, like there's no denying it. So it's not like you're just like, hey, that's my
What
wife.
they what they should be saying is, poor Sarah, she has to keep acting in her stupid husband's films. Like what they should be saying. Yeah.
No, yeah. I mean, I feel like you guys do such a good collaborative process together, then that shows. And I feel like it's more or less just you guys obviously you're married, you're on the same wavelength to begin with, but then
Yeah.
creatively it's just like this great marriage of both your minds together. And I think that translates well. And I mean, Sarah, like Sarah Booth fan club, we said Sarah Booth fan club.
Listen,
And
I'm head of the fan club. I know all about it. It's so funny too. So she just wrapped doing a Hallmark movie, which is like the
woo!
polar opposite of most of her roles. And she makes the joke too. She says, for years I just walked into the makeup trailer and they put some mud or some blood on me and said go. She goes, but like only in the last few years have I been like, oh, I get makeup put on and they're styling my hair and they're making me look pretty for camera. She's like, it's a different world of the role. She's very good at playing dark characters and mean characters. And I don't know if you saw the television movie that she made for Lifetime, Trapped, where she plays like the mother of a home to try to rehabilitate gay kids, where they bring them in and say like, we're gonna make you straight essentially by living under our insane rules, which was based on a true story. And she plays the mother of this like foster home essentially. It's like that's brutal.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one, but I did find it like incredibly wholesome that my grandmother loves Murdoch mysteries.
Yep.
And we were talking about it and she asked me to watch a couple episodes. So her and I were sitting one day and we were watching an episode and it was the one that I think Sarah's in 2 episodes, right? Yeah.
I
Uh
think 3 total, but
yeah.
2. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, "No, Grandma, I know her." And she was like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah, Grandma, that's who I was telling you about." And she was like, "Oh," she was like, "Well, I love Murdoch mysteries." So,
I
and I
actually
just
haven't watched those episodes yet. I'm a bad husband. I haven't seen those ones yet.
she just like my grandmother kept talking about it, and I remember you posting about it, something about it, and so I was like, okay, I'll watch a couple episodes with you because I like British
Yep.
dramas, stuff like that, anyways. And so that came on, and I was like, Grandma, I know her. Like, she's pretty freaking awesome. My grandma's like, well, she has to be pretty awesome to be on Murder Mysteries. I was like, yeah, she got the Wilma seal of approval, so. I
Yeah,
mean,
we had a really great cast because Kimberly Sue Murray's gone on. She was on Shadow Hunters and V
oh
Wars, and
yeah.
she's got this awesome movie called Traitor that just came out. Like if you can find Traitor, watch it. It's XYZ put it out. We just had a chance. I haven't even had a chance to call her and tell her how much I loved her in it. She's the only actor on screen for the entire movie, and she crushes it. She just wrapped Alex Noyer's new film that's shooting in Canada called Love is the Monster, I think is the title. Catherine Burrell, she blew up on Winona Earp after Scarehouse. She
Yes.
does a lot of Hallmark projects. She was on The Good Witch. She's on Working Moms. She's directing now. Like her career is on fire. Like Catherine's still a good friend. Ivana and I are producing together. Like Emily Alatalo's been in a handful of great little genre films for the Black Fawn guys. And there's so many company names that I'm just, God, I can't remember anything anymore. And but yeah, she's been doing Hallmark movies too, and getting into doing stunts. She worked doing stunts for Darren Aronofsky's Mother, and So like I always joke about the Scarehouse that like I was stupid to kill everybody off except for the Corey character, because so many of them ended up being great actors, or like the sequel would have been perfect because then we would have had more name recognition. So, Sarah really, like, I feel like she could be a casting director tomorrow, because she really has her finger on the pulse of like people that seem to really commit and are in this to win it and actually find success in their careers.
Yeah, the thing that I relate so much to this movie is the fact that they have all of this going on, and then there's the scare house in the front where you see everyone like getting in and getting through the scares and stuff. As somebody who lives by like a lot of haunted houses, like Ohio has a
Yeah.
ton of haunted houses,
Yeah.
especially with Cedar Point and stuff. And as somebody who's been there, like I agree with you. I am not someone who handles haunted houses well, but like you're just so disoriented from like everything that's going on around you. You would not second guess anything that's going on. You'd be like, "Oh yeah, that's a body right there." Like they did a great job on that. And then you would find out later it was a body and you'd be like, "Oh, that makes sense."
Well, it's
Like
really funny because we had, we just didn't have the budget. I wanted to have more extras passing by and them having some near misses sometimes with people, but just budget wise, we couldn't make it work. But the key moment where Tegan Vince's character is tied up and she's screaming for help at these two guys, and it just cuts to them, they're like stone standing there, be like, "Hey, like shut the fuck up, your acting's terrible," or whatever. They just walk away
Mhm.
laughing, thinking it's part of the haunt. I wish we could have done more of that, but those two actors, Jonathan and Alex, when he found out we were making the movies, like, I want to be in a horror movie so bad. Me and his good friend Jesse, like, we want to be in a horror movie so bad, we'll do anything. I'm like, I'm gonna write this little thing just for you guys to be in it. And they're like, they're massive Scream fans, so they're like, can we be named after the killers in Scream? It's Stu and
Billy.
Billy. So
Billy.
their credited names in the movie are just first names only, Stu and Billy, or Billy
Oh,
and
that's
Stu.
awesome.
And then Jesse booked something and couldn't do it, so Alex still did it. Our friend Jonathan stepped in to do it. It was awesome. It turned out great. Fast forward to like last year, Jesse finds out they're shooting Scream 6 in Montreal, where it's happening, calls his agent and says, "I will do any fucking part in that, anything, just to be in a Scream movie," even though his career is like, so he has like one or two lines when they're at like the frat party at the beginning where somebody says like, "Hey, do you know where my sister is?" Or what, he goes, "Yeah, I think she went that way." Or he's just there at the party and he's like, "I'm in Scream, I did it." Yeah.
I mean, like, I get it. I would sell body parts to be in a Scream movie, so I completely get it. But that's kind of hilarious. But yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, I've been in a haunted house before, and a lot of people know this. I've said this in our Halloween special before, but like obviously being by Cedar Point, I've gotten like roped into going into one, and I had a very traumatic experience when I was 13 where I got pushed into the side of a clown house, a haunted house, and my nose was bleeding, and a clown came right here and I decked him. Like I literally just was like, "Get away from me." And I got escorted out by a series of clowns. And nobody thought the wise. The only person who was looking for me was my friend's mother, who was like, she's lost in the haunted house. But like nobody knew. Everyone else was like, "Oh yeah, she'll show up eventually." So I'm like, they could have
Yeah.
murdered me.
Oh
And you
yeah, I
would never
working in a
know.
haunted house myself,
Yeah. Oh
I work
yeah.
in the wooded part of the haunted house. So there's an indoor part and then the woods. And out in the woods, like you're constantly thinking like anything could happen out here. Somebody could drag someone off the
Yeah.
dimly lit path real easy and just murder them in the woods and nobody would know. Or you can hang a body parts like you do in the scare and just say it doesn't matter. People are going to think it's part of the haunt. Just we got some really cool decorations that year. And there's so much screaming going on, and in the woods the screams bounce all over the place. So I mean anybody could be screaming for their life and nobody would know.
Well, Angie, I know you've seen some of the Boo Crew show about the behind the scenes of Scarehouse, but I don't know if you saw, but there's an episode about Boo School, which is where they teach the actors how to scare safely. Because
Yes.
if you jump in
Yeah.
somebody's face, they're gonna get hurt. And
Hmm.
Gary, who's been a long time worker and friend of Sean's at the Scarehouse, he tells a story at the beginning of the episode about like the first time ever, like he came in to help and scare, and he jumped out, and some like his very first scare, somebody just decked him right in the nose. You know?
Yes.
Yeah, they have a very like I think maybe because I was a minor, like they were like, okay, she has a bloody nose, like we're just gonna escort her out. Like this obviously was
Yeah.
like, because I had just watched Killer Clowns from Outer Space too, like a couple months before then, and that kind of rocked my Midwestern world. Like seeing something like that. So then being confronted by a bunch of clowns and then having a bloody nose, I'm like disoriented. But like Cedar Point, they do not play. Like if you get up and close with one of them, like I've seen people get ejected and like
I've
heard
been through
stories.
that haunt. I know that. I know those haunts. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
they change.
yeah.
Yeah, they change them every year. But I
Well, you're
just
lucky
rem
too. You guys have the one that's actually in the Shawshank prison, right? Like the location where they
yes,
shot the movie. Yeah.
yeah, we have that. The weird thing about that, and Angie's talked about this before too. Because Angie, you had the book convention there,
Hmm.
and we were talking about that. There are so when they bring like different ghost crews through there and stuff like that. You have to be very careful about which one you're watching because a lot of times they will add stuff. Like I will tell you that prison does not need anything added to it. However, like when you have different ghost adventures or stuff like that that come through, they add stuff to the actual like set and stuff. So I think
Uh,
like Angie,
Yeah.
you were talking about it. They have like the graffiti that was left.
Yeah.
Was it by
MTV
yeah.
MTV did some kind of shoot there, and they tell you this on the tour. And they did some haunted house show there, and they painted stuff on in the basement that's really dark to make it look like shadow people were there. And then so the prison, when they found out about it, they left it up so they could warn people that this is what ends up happening when they shoot ghost shows and stuff like that.
Yeah, which I
Angie, I
mean,
know you should come with us because you work in the haunt business. You should come with us in, I think it's every March in St. Louis. We'll keep you safe from Jason. I'll make that promise up front.
Yeah, thank
Not
you.
not Jason Voorhees either, but
But that his near close relative.
yes, his very near close relative. And yeah, there's a convention called Trans World, which is like the Haunters convention, where
mhm.
it's
Oh,
all the
cool.
latest sets, makeups, immortal masks, like all the companies are set up there. And it's like a 3-day convention. Just like they have workshops on how to learn to build scares better, makeup school, but it's just this massive trade floor of nothing but props and goodies
Wow.
for haunted houses. And the Scarehouse crew goes. I got to go with them the one year, and it was even as a filmmaker, I was like, this is awesome. I love this stuff, and I'm hoping to go this coming March to be filming it for our season 2 of the docu series. So
Oh,
you
I'll
should
totally
come meet us
go.
there. It's so much fun.
Yeah, I think I've seen clips and stuff of that because if I'm not mistaken, that's where that terrifying nightmare fuel clip of the big Krampus animatronic holding the kid upside down was from.
It is, yeah. And
Yeah.
I went when they had the giant one, the one it was just terrifying. Yep.
Yeah, those are terrifying. They're actually so it's not on that level, but here in Ohio, like specifically Cleveland, I had no idea that this was like even a thing, but they have a Cleveland haunt club where
Mm-hmm.
they have a bunch of the different haunted houses that because obviously Ohio has a bunch of them. Um, and they get together and they do different events, but a lot of it is where you'll go every month and like Cedar Point they have one where you can go to Cedar Point, you can do the behind the scenes tour, and then they'll take you through everything and stuff like that. But then they have the other haunted houses as well in the area. So then they show you like the behind the scenes and how they do
Yeah.
this and all the different things. And it's really, really cool.
I have to go to LA in a couple weeks, and I've never done the horror nights ever, even when I lived
Mm.
there. And I'm like, maybe I should just bite the bullet and stand in all the long lines and just do it this year.
Yeah, I'm trying to work my tolerance up to get to that point because as someone who loves horror films, I feel like that's just, especially with Universal Monsters, that's I feel like the one time a year where they go balls to the wall
Yeah.
with that. And
Mhm.
I just need to get used to like just having people come out and scare me. That's fine. But I just have dicks that go with me a lot of times that just like shout my name and tell people in advance. So then I have people following me. Like I
Oh,
think
hey, we love that. We love hearing
Yeah.
somebody's name.
Oh, Angie,
Yeah.
Brittany did that 2 years ago. We went into a scare zone and she was like, "They're coming for you, Cassandra." And so I had a bunch of people following me, and Brittany's little son is standing beside me like, "Stay away from her. She's scared. It'll be okay, Cassandra." And I'm just like, I'm having this little kid like sympathize for me, and I should be the adult in this, but I have no chill right now.
I don't know if
So
you ever saw, we teamed up with the prank channel back in the day when Scarehouse was coming out, but when we had our world premiere here in Windsor where we shot the movie, we had a limo for the cast. So all the girls and Jonathan and Alex were like, "Hey, let's you're going to like eat some caviar and get some champagne and do some TV interviews." And they all loaded up in the limo. And then we pulled up outside of Scarehouse Windsor because they just opened for the season, said everyone has to walk through it before they go to the premiere. And they were like, no, fuck you. Absolutely not. I'm like, you don't get to go back in the limo and go to the premiere unless you go through the haunt. And we had night vision cameras set up in there and camera people. So we had basically a prank video of like, can the cast of the Scarehouse survive a haunted house experience? And there's nothing funnier to me, sadistically funny, than watching, these beautiful actresses dolled up for their premiere in their gowns and dresses, swearing like truckers as they try to navigate through this haunted house and survive. It's very funny. Yeah.
oh no, it's hysterical. I will have to repost the video in this, but I think it was 2 years ago when we did the Killer Clowns episode. Brittany dressed up as Shorty from Killer Clowns, and
Amazing.
I have a auto body shop right next door to me. So she got out of her car, walked as Shorty for everyone in the auto body shop to see. So like they have no idea what's going on. Comes up the stairs and knocks on the door. She asked me, she's like, "Are you gonna come answer the door?" And so I knew something, I should have known something was up. I opened the door and I I was disoriented, to say the least. I am literally like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, I think even my manager ended up saying something about, did you get like a Halloweenogram or something? I was like, why? She's like, because there was a clown in front of your apartment. I was like, oh yeah, that was my friend.
We had, when we shot the Scare House, Sean, who owns it, a lot of times I would be like first one on set to go turn on power or whatever, because we
Right.
would shut the power off. And the building that we shot the movie in, their former Scare House building, was a little sketchy with the electrical system. So we were in the building, we always powered it down. So you had to go through the front door and then kind of walk through parts of the maze to get all the way to the back and turn the power off. And almost every single day that I had to do that, because Sean was, he became our set builder. We always joke that Sean gets credit as like the production designer for the Scare House, but like he's like, people are going to try to hire me to do a movie again. I'm like, I don't know how to do that. He's like, you got to find me a building with 100 years worth of dust and cobwebs, and great, I'll set up some fences and some tarps. But he would put one of the dummy props with a clown mask on, because I don't like clowns either. And like he would always put it somewhere just perfectly, that as I'm like turning a corner with my iPhone like flashlight, it was just there. And like, so I never needed coffee going to set to shoot the Scare House, because I got like the wake up scare just going to try to turn the power on.
Oh yeah, I would have
Oh,
taken out a dummy. Like that's like Hell House LLC. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's what gets me throughout that whole entire movie is just the freaking clowns that sit there and then they just move at random times. That
yep.
is I can't. Like I can't. I'm just like, that's where my eyes go the whole entire time. I'm like, listen, he moved. Like, I'm at the point where I'm already in the next state over at this
I don't
point.
I don't watch other movies about haunted houses. I know it's like a trend now. There's a bunch of them, but I'm actively writing like a Scarehouse sequel, and I just don't want to accidentally borrow ideas or be deterred if I see something that's like similar to what I'm doing. So I just haven't. Maybe after I finish Scarehouse 2, I'll actually like, because I know of Haunt. The Hell House movies. Like I want to watch all of these movies. I just don't want to be influenced until I finish this damn sequel script. Yeah.
Now, are you
Well,
going to plan to film the second one at the Scare House also, or have you thought about maybe going to different haunted houses and filming different movies on different haunts?
That would be awesome. Budget wise, my
Yeah.
friend's haunted house that I don't have to pay to use is the ideal. Um, no, the plan right now is to shoot. There's a couple. We'll talk after the public portion of this podcast. I'll fill you in on what we're planning on doing. But
Okay.
there's
yeah,
some really fun sequel plans brewing.
that's special recipe uh situation. uh but no, I mean, it's great to know that there is like another because that's the one thing that always, like, I think about watching that is how fantastic it is, and it's one of those movies that does need another one, because I definitely can see it being with a different story, like how you were saying, okay, well, we could take it this way or that way. Like, I could see it being, okay, you are still staying in the scare house, but it's not the same story as the first one, but it's using the scare house as like the killer,
I did pitch a terrible sequel idea to Universal many years ago. With like, what if Corey's gone on the run and into hiding, and now she works at Universal's like Halloween Horror Nights, and like
uh,
starts killing people in there, and and then it's like it's the super metaverse of it all, and they're like, no, yeah.
I see, that would be hilarious I would love to see that though, because that could be something that, I mean, those horror night scare actors go above and beyond. Like, I could not even think about, yeah, I don't know. I just think that she would fit in perfectly with them.
I had a sequel pretty much written, like a treatment where I had it outlined scene by scene, and then just a better idea hit me. So I scrapped it. So I have this unused version of what the sequel could have been.
Well, I like I said, I'm just glad to know that there is one in the works, because I know so many people love this. And like I said,
Mhm.
we include it on our much watch every year for like when we do our Halloween special and talking about it. But you were talking at different points about the documentary that you're doing right now for
Mhm.
Scarehouse Windsor. Can you tell us a little bit about it and where
Yeah.
we can potentially find it?
There was going to be an entire episode of making the Scarehouse movie in there. I was only commissioned to do 6 episodes. I ended up turning in 8 episodes just out of like my insane OCD like passion for this thing, where I was like, no, there's a bigger story. And I gave them more episodes than I was contracted for. But even in 8 episodes, I ran out of space to fit in the entire episode about making the Scarehouse movie. So season 2, maybe, but the Boo Crew is exactly that. Our tagline is fear has never been this fun, and it's the behind the scenes look of what goes into designing, building, and operating a haunted house as a business. Because this one in particular is only open for 23 days a season. It's in this massive like auto plant, like old auto plant factory that they now own. This haunted house has afforded them the opportunity to buy the building, and so we followed them through the 2022 season. But because I've been around, Sean, because we shot the movie there, I just had hard drives and tapes full of old footage as well to kind of tell the entire history. So it's really about the people, because they call themselves the Boo Crew. That's what they were, all the volunteers, all the scare actors there, they call themselves, they all have their Boo Crew t-shirts. And um the story really became, there's a lot more heart to it than I thought there might be. It's not a dumb reality show where it's like Sean and Dario only have 2 days to finish the new haunted maze. Can they get it done? Because there's a lumber shortage. We didn't set up stupid scenarios. My friends are too stupid to act well, so they couldn't do it anyways. But like, Sean is married to Colleen. Colleen is like runs the makeup school, and Colleen's like an artist. She paints and draws, and she runs 5 nail salons like around the city. She has a chain of nail salons, and she's an artist to her core. So when they started doing the haunted house stuff, it's like, oh, Colleen's perfect for designing sets and coming up with character makeups. And then she's, now they're at the point where she has to staff and train 4 other makeup artists to do it full time for the season. So it's just watching them all grow out of, Sean and Dario came from owning nightclubs and bars. So they know how to run events. They know how to do all of that. Just it's very earnest because they're very honest about all their failures and all the things they haven't known over the years that they've just sort of growing into knowing. And it's the perfect kind of storytelling for me, right? I don't want to do anything that's like fake or just the bubblegum version of something. Like I want to get a little bit of grit in there and talk about all some of the infighting and the problems and things over the years.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic because I think a lot of people don't realize the artistry, the behind the scenes that goes behind all of these great things and like the history behind it because there's just a lot. And I mean, I know Angie, I creep on your Facebook all the time because I love you. But like I see your behind the scenes stuff for when you do your scare acting and like it's just the amount of time and effort that goes into doing that. I just don't think people realize that as much. So I'm glad that
Yeah.
you're kind of showing that because it's a lot. Like I know people that do it around here for Cedar Point and the amount of work that they put into doing that and even like smaller ones around here like the Haunted Hydro and some of the ones around Cleveland, Ghostly Manor, like those, they go balls to the wall. And I mean they just put so much time and effort and like learning their own makeup skills and different things like that that it's just
Mm-hmm.
insane. Like I just think people think, oh, they wake up one day, they walk in and they just decide, hey, I'm gonna put this on.
Yeah.
It's not that easy.
Yeah, and
This
it's not
this
easy to be a scare actor at a haunt
Yeah,
either. And
no.
a lot of people think it's like super easy, like, oh, I could do that. No, you probably couldn't. And it's just it goes so much beyond like, you know, crafting your character, making sure you're moving in the right way, making sure that you're got your scares down pat and things like that, doing everything you can to make yourself the scariest they can be, that you can be. It goes into like the next day waking up and you can't talk at all and you're drinking nothing but tea and eating honey, and just trying to, in between people coming through and you're like sucking on a cough drop, there's a lot that goes into it because I mean, yeah, there's so much that goes into being an actor at a haunt. And I love the idea of the Boo Crew going behind the scenes and really showing these nuances from set design to acting to makeup to everything that you put into it. It's an incredible process and I really love the idea of this documentary.
I think there's so Friday and Saturday were Scarehouse's like first 2 nights of the season, but I was in Montreal while Sarah's shooting up there. And I talked to Sean on Sunday morning. I'm like, hey, how did it go? He's like, dude, there was a fire inside the haunt. Two of my crew
Mm-hmm.
people wanted to quit. There was crying. He goes, normally we have like 40 people on the first couple opening nights. We got slammed with 150 people because the bar area is now like open to the public. So you can come into the haunt without going through the haunts now. He goes, there was like a dance party. My staff was just like completely overwhelmed. We were slammed and we just completely blindsided by it. And I was like, and I wasn't there. I'm like, everything you just described sounds as fascinating as everything that makes up season one. But my one of the main cinematographers on the show, Emily Tangway, she was in there Friday night capturing everything. It's like, man, I should have just got her to do both nights. And Sean's like, no, she was there. She came in. I'm like, she had taken it upon herself and gone in. I was like, yes. So I texted her, I'm like, please tell me you got. She's like, I got the footage. I got the footage. Like, all right.
Oh yeah, you've got in the middle of the haunt, you've got a wall that falls down because somebody got a little too rough with the wall. I've
Yep.
literally had to like hold up a wall before while the manager runs back, and they have to hold people back so that we can get
We
that
have that
wall
in the
back
boot
up.
crew with Tommy. We get to actively see him running around like with his drill and his endless screws just
Yep.
to repair walls all night. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Crazy like props break, or like that brick wall that's supposed to go up on its own on a mechanism. Somehow it gets stuck, and
Yeah.
there's so much that goes wrong.
They
And
had
and
a
then you've
kid.
got the
Sorry.
customers that get handsy with somebody or try to punch an actor, or it just, you've got
That's where the whole like
craziness.
Sean sits in his office with like all the video screens. He's got like 16 or 20 security cameras, and they got an amazing security team. And like that's where all those trap doors come in place. They see somebody try to break a prop or like get handsy with somebody. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's a security guard within 30 seconds, just literally jumping out of the dark at you and dragging you by the back of your hoodie or jacket or whatever. And you are now dragged into the darkness of the behind the scenes of Scarehouse and
Yes.
marched into the security office. Yeah.
Yeah, we've had to hire security guards out there now, and we have like code words that, like, if somebody's getting handsy with one of the teenagers or something, they'll yell
Yeah.
out code red,
They
you
change it
know.
every year at Scarehouse. I'm trying to remember what it was last. It wasn't fire escape. It was some, but they always just have oh, it was forklift was last year's
Yeah.
words, like so they'll
Yeah.
come up with a new word that you would never use in normal conversation. And if somebody yells forklift or calls forklift over a walkie-talkie, it's
Mm-hmm.
everything stops until that situation's resolved. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, they so like I know for us here, like going through Cedar Point, they
Mm-hmm.
have their haunted houses on like some of the rides, like the ride tracks, and like one notoriously is in the one of the water rides that get drained like September. And that is notorious for any kind of weather that happens. You're in like three 2 3 feet of water, and you're just like muddling through. There are points
Yeah.
where like sets disintegrate, like they've changed it into different things, but like corn stalkers, I was gonna go on it because I thought that was cool. Like to me, corn scarecrows popping out at you, I thought that was cool. I see how much space you have because they've had to push the walls in because of the fact that there's been so much water and stuff. I was like, yeah, I'm not. It's not fat person approved.
The
Um,
scariest experience I ever had at Cedar Point was the first time that I rode the Top Thrills dragster, because I was sexually assaulted by that ride, because that thing,
oh yes.
it goes 120 miles an hour, like you bullet out of it, you just go straight up, corkscrew down, and it is so fast. It throws you back in your chair so hard. But when the ride was done, I had like a button up, like a Hawaiian shirt on. It was ripped completely open. My eyebrow ring had like twisted inside, like pushed inside the hole and twisted, so I had blood pouring down my face. And
Well, you
it's like,
know
what
that
happened to
that's
you? I'm like, I think this ride just sexually assaulted me. Like,
Oh
what
my
the hell?
gosh.
well, you know that that's no longer in commission, right?
Somebody
They
died, right? A bolt fell off it or something.
No, somebody had got intent. Well, I mean, technically, I guess they were comatose at one point, but they got severe brain damage. Like they were a big metal piece of it came off and hit somebody right in the ride queue, and it hit them on their head at a certain point, and it was
Oh.
bad. It was crazy though because this year we've had a bunch of different crazy out of pocket storms, even for Ohio. And I was talking to Angie, and I think this was the week before Sarah's episode on From.
Hmm.
And we had just had storms like 2 weeks prior. We had been out of town. Well, Cedar Point had got hit, like their roller coasters had got hit during a certain time. Well, we were there for Braden. They have like a day for a kid again, the organization that Braden's a part of. And so we stopped at the 50s diner that's in between two of the roller coasters. Well, it started raining and pouring and thundering, and the lightning started getting way too close to the roller coasters, and they ended up like walkie talking back and forth, and they were like, Yeah, we can't, we have to stop serving. We have to turn the power off to the griddles and everything like that, that they told us to completely stop. So we're stuck in this 50s diner with thunder and lightning going on. We could see it hitting the roller coasters, and the 50s music is playing, and we had just watched From that morning. And I'm like, oh, I'm like, I literally called Angie and I'm like, we just got stuck in Fromland. Like, I don't know how that happened being on Cedar Point, but we literally just, I think that's the closest experience I'm ever going to get to being on From, but it was terrifying. Like, my son's
I'm
like,
such a like self-masochist because I love roller coasters. I love theme parks, but I found some YouTube channel that's like theme park disasters. And
Oh
I've
gosh.
watched them all. And now I'm just like, I don't know. It actually take me a lot to get on a roller coaster again and trust that it's
or
going to complete its track.
abandoned theme parks, that I watch those videos, but like the people that decide to go there and like walk on the tracks of like the roller coaster that hasn't been like in work for like 15 years,
Mhm.
I'm like, you're gonna die. Like, that's gonna fall in. Like, have you not seen a horror movie? Like, somebody's gonna come out to grab you, you're gonna fall
It's
through
Final
there.
Destination 3 waiting to happen. Yeah.
Right,
Mhm.
definitely. So where can you find the Boo Crew documentary?
It is right now just a Canadian series, but it is on any Canadian listeners, viewers out there. You can find it on Bell 5 TV1. It starts airing October 3rd. We are in talks with some US distribution options, and hopefully I'll have something announced somewhere soon about where it will be able to be seen in the US.
Yay.
We'll put that in the description, and when if that does get updated, we'll definitely update it down below. And currently the Scarehouse is screaming. That's, I
Screaming.
mean,
Perfect.
yeah, screaming. That's perfect. On Tubi, Pluto TV. I mean, it's everywhere.
How has Shudder not coined the tagline like
Like
the best
screaming.
screaming service, you
Yes.
know,
That's crazy.
Yeah.
or
Listen, you
Screambox for crying out loud, you know?
right. Like, you heard it first. Like, we
Yep.
said it. Like, now they need to come contact us
I
about.
just want that in the trailer, like coming Friday, October 13th, screaming everywhere, screaming in theaters everywhere. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. I am definitely not just blowing smoke. This is a fantastic movie. If you have not seen it and you want a good movie to watch for the Halloween season or even all year round, this is fantastic. Like, it is perfect for just that film that you just want every itch scratched. You might walk away with some new phobias, but it's fine. Therapy's there for a reason.
My
Uh,
Sarah's mother-in-law, my mother will not let Sarah handle like any knife related to carving turkeys or anything at the holidays. It won't be in the same room. My actually my one of my favorite stories of that entire film process and release process was when we had the world premiere. I didn't watch the film. I just sat out in the lobby with a friend of mine that wanted to come support but was too scared to watch a horror movie. And because I generally edit my own films, once I finish them, I don't want to sit and watch them. Like, I've seen it a lot. And that night we had 5 sold out theaters. So we had like just shy of 1,000 people like in a multiplex watching it all together. And my mom came out of the theater that she was in, and she worked for like a children protection service, and she had invited her boss and everything, and her boss at the time's like least favorite word was the C word. And there's in the movie there's the C word montage, you know, where the one girl says, like, they're like, you say that word a lot. No, I don't. And then it cuts through like the home video footage of all
yes.
the cuntosaurus, like all the funny things that are in there, the final cunt down when all of that stuff. And my mom just came out laughing because she's like, I could just feel my boss behind me just shrinking in her seat, like, as you like, you know, how much she hates the word. I'm like, well, you're welcome, mom. Yeah.
Mom approved.
Yeah.
That's
When your
that's
mother's favorite part of your movie is and I'll say audio, so there's no mistake that people think there's a video. There's just the audio cunt montage. That's your mom's favorite part of the movie you made. You've got a special bond with your mother. Yeah.
There
Yeah,
you go.
that's perfect. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Everything's gonna be linked down below, and we're super excited because this is kind of yeah, down below. This is a kind of our breaking into our theme for Halloween, which is Halloween. And who better to represent Halloween than the Scarehouse and Sarah?
I wish I was still in Montreal. I just drove back this morning because she could have just popped her head in right then and been like, hello.
Aw, well, next time. There's always a next time.
She's just here. She's on the
yeah, she's
There
she's
she
right
is,
there.
yeah.
South Park art. Yeah.
She's right behind
She's there. You
you.
can't see her. She's in the Fangoria article. She's there.
She's always floating in the background,
Yeah.
always floating. Well, and thank you so much, Angie, for coming on too. Angie is always a ride or die for the podcast, and she comes on and helps with my shenanigans, and we love that. So thank you, Angie, for coming on.
I wouldn't miss this one for the world.
I know, I'm super excited. This is like a big family reunion. I mean, we all met on Clubhouse, and now we're here. We started from there, and now we're here. And we're still
we
on
successfully
Clubhouse.
didn't scam anyone on Clubhouse, and we still talk to each other.
Yes,
exactly.
I will call that a win. So, well, watch the Scarehouse, and if you haven't seen the Scarehouse and you watch it, comment down below and let us know how you like it. And until next time, it's me, Cassandra from the Horrorcraft podcast, and I'm saying bye and stay spooky. Bye.